Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, we're discussing my thoughts on episode 10 of the anime series Rage of Bahamut, Virgin Soul. And this proved to be a somewhat surprisingly emotional episode for me, very much falling back on the having fallen from grace of Jeanne d'Arc in the eyes of the kingdom, how that all came about, having lost her heavenly gifts, her heavenly strength, and the crushing blow of how that became apparent to her, having to fend off this attacking behemoth-like creature amongst civilians and having failed, cruelly and unjustly failed because she no longer possessed that heavenly power. And it's astounding to me that it immediately tugged at my heartstrings and, just ripping and yanking at them emotionally. And then to see that the ideologies, the clash of ideologies is what really fixed her being thrown out. There's already sort of discord amongst the soldiers who are training and thinking she can't hold her own. They just want a pretty face, a pretty woman as the leader of the Orleans Knights and everything like that, as the captain. But it's the higher-ups who don't really get the nitty-gritty, who aren't getting down and dirty and aren't seeing that she can't hold her own anymore. They don't get it, and so, they're very disparaging to her, and she overhears this and, of course, is trying that much harder. She has the resolve to keep at it, to not give in, not give up, and she really commands the sort of, worship, if you will, for lack of a better term, the honor amongst Kaiser and, the few that are closest to him in the Orleans Knights. In her saying that, in her evoking that idea that I'm not giving in, I'm not going to be pressed to leave. But unfortunately, she is given an ultimatum by Charioce, who is this guy who just comes in one day and is like, I'm taking the throne, I'm ascending to the throne. He whisks off the crown, off the pillow the guy's holding there, proffering before him. It's my throne, and you have people in the crowd murmuring, like, is he insane? Is this really how this is all going to happen? He's not going to seek the intervention of the heavenly bodies, the gods above, or anything like that? We're going to do this completely without their input? Well, apparently so, and this is just the formation, the snowballs beginning of that clash of ideologies, that butting of heads between, of course, Jeanne d'Arc and Charioce himself, and he puts it to her, well, we're not going to be beholden to the heavenly bodies anymore, the gods above. Humanity must seek beyond this. For the sake of our own survival, the heavens be damned, the gods be damned. Are you going to side with me? And then I'll tell you what it is I'm after. There's something, there's a MacGuffin he's after, some ultimate power, penultimate power. And this comes before the birth of Mugaro/L. So he was seeking something before that. Some ultimate power. Some power that would seek to wreak havoc across the heavenly bodies. And we know that he succeeds at this eventually. But this is what sees Jeanne d'Arc completely just being left to her devices. She's cast out, and she goes upon this sort of very down-home, country bumpkin-esque, farmhand-esque life. And she, it's amazing how they've animated her character. She's such a stark, beautiful character, made even more so, not with the debilitation of her strength, but with the more maternal heart and hearth, that you see ever present. And then the shocking terror when she's praying to the Lord Michael above because of that loss, because of how much that still smarts inside her. And here she is gifted with Mugaro, the later Mugaro. Here she is gifted with the birth of this child through heavenly providence, and to see her screeching and screaming out as this is happening, it gave me shivers. But it was then suddenly markedly beautiful to see that little cherubic face looking so endearingly at his mother, and the shock on her face that over time would warm to such a maternal love for this child, this love and protective quality, like we've thoroughly seen an evolution of Jeanne d'Arc having been a warrior and now being able to be that much more compassionate and embracing of a life. A life that is somewhat, I guess you could say, arguably an answer to the little girl's life that was lost to her inability, her being rendered ineffectual because of that stolen strength. And so here she is, and she's just a dutiful mother, and she's loving raising up this little angelic boy who thoroughly speaks. He's questioning when there's a storm rolling in. Is the house going to blow away? And like just their conversations, it was miraculous. And then, of course, they hear a crash boom bang outside that sounds abnormal. And when Jeanne d'Arc goes and seeks out, where that noise came from, she stumbles into Sophia, who is tentatively wounded, and because of the ensuing conflict between humanity and the gods, and those Onyx Knights, they show up, just right on her coattails after Jeanne d'Arc has snuck her in like a, cupboard or something. And the merry chase ensues, not before Jeanne d'Arc herself is manhandled, and little L manifests for the first time his heavenly power, which deadlegs them long enough to buy them time to make that getaway. And then, as I say, the chase ensues throughout the city and everything like that, and they have the flares going, they're riding on dragonback, and soldiers are hopping across rooftops, trying to pinpoint where she's gone to. And she ends up finding this demon slaughterhouse, where it couldn't have taken any more of a shocking turn, at least to my estimation. She starts bludgeoning corpses while other demons are still being held in cages, and some are slung up on hooks. In the pile of the dead demons, she's bludgeoning the hell out of them, getting them to bleed out. This with the plan to disguise little L as one of the bodies. And she pours the blood all over him, and it soaks into his hair, changing its color. It's such an interesting symbolism. The loss of innocence, the loss of that heavenly divinity. Because then she too takes those, giant, like scissors, whatever you would call them, gardening implement, and shears off his heavenly wings to boot. And his whole demeanor changes. He still holds on to the spark of trying to be there for his mother. He's while the tears are rolling out, he's still smiling up at her, trying to be strong for his mother as he understands what's going on. His mother's leaving him to save and preserve his well-being, his life. And she's disguised him, and it's only beholden to him to stay quiet. Which, it's so poignant then, from that moment on, he would never speak. He no longer speaks. I don't know whether it's just because of the psychological impact of what he experienced in that moment, that he was rendered mute, or if it was a consequence of having shorn off his wings and his whole physicality changing, maybe becoming arguably more human, less powerful, although we know that he is still very much a conductor of a penultimate heavenly ability, a power. We've seen this in evidence twice to three times before in trying to save Azazel. And, of course, Jeanne d'Arc takes a corpse just to fake these Onyx guards out that this is her child, that she will leave behind, seeking El's safety. And eventually one thing would lead to another, and he would find his way to Azazel, and hopefully we'll get a little more clarity as to how that came about. But just the impact of all of this It was compelling, it was mesmerizing, it was miraculous. It was an emotional torrent. It was left, right, and center, just shocks and surprises and wonders, all. And then by the end, of course, you find out post-credits that this is the story she has been telling to Nina. And Nina is so moved. And I love the moment of clarity on her part. Oh, but wait, but wouldn't that mean that Mogado is a boy? Jeanne d'Arc just sort of laughs to herself, smiles, smirks, whatever you want to say. But wow, what a hell of an episode. Just the storytelling. Seeing how maternal and compassionate and motherly this warrior, Jeanne d'Arc, would become. I mean, I'm reminded, as the movie just came out recently, as of the time of this recording, of Wonder Woman. A warrior who could be maternal and compassionate as much as she could be strong and a force to be reckoned with. That is Jeanne d'Arc in this series. And just the character portrait, the characterization of her, filling in those blanks, that aspect of the mystery of how she became locked in a dungeon at the hands of Charioce and all that kind of stuff. Those were all finally answered in such a compelling, moving way with this episode that I'm left gobsmacked by the end. So many times through the course of this episode, I wanted to seek her out and embrace her and just hug her and tell her it's going to be okay. This for a woman who, under the banner, the herald of her former strength, that's how you would be motivated to feel. Everything's okay because Jeanne d'Arc is our leader, is our clarion call to the future. And when that future became so disparaging and so lost to her, she was giving something new to live for and then robbed of it. And so now she seeks to move ever forward and reunite with her child. And I can only hope that happens. I can only hope there isn't going to be any hardships or heartbreaks to come to see that not happening. What a spectacular episode. And so I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 10 of Rage of Bahamut Virgin Soul, if you've seen it as well, if you found it as emotionally impactful as I did. If not, why not? Let me know in the comments below. Just love having that conversation, even if our POVs happen to disagree. As long as we have a great conversation about anime that we love and share a mutual passion for, it's all good. So, yeah, otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.